Lithuania, Germany, Kazakhstan, Serbia, Bulgaria. Wow. It's awesome to have you all. Switzerland, Italy. Hello, everyone. Czech Republic, Mexico, Macedonia, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Argentina. Hola. Hello, everyone. Great to be here. Hello. Labas ritas. Gracias, everyone. Lots of people from various parts of the world. Poland. Yeah, we're going to have an amazing opportunity today with our Global Teachers Festival, the 8th day for us to exchange ideas, work with teacher development. And it's always great to invest time in teacher development and professional opportunities, right? So hello, Colombia, Georgia, Poland, Kazakhstan, Lithuania, Peru, Brazil, Layla. Yeah, Turkey. Wow, there's so many people today. And it's always great. Thank you for the reactions as well. From Lebanon, Ecuador. Wow. So many people. That's always great to see. Oman, we have a global community of teachers. Greece, Kalimera. So Thailand, right? Um, wow, there's so many people there. Good evening, Meritas, Croatia, Latvia, Riga. Thank you so much, Romania, Cyprus. Yeah, everyone getting ready for our talks right now. Argentina, Bulgaria, Mexico. People from Europe, from Asia, from Latin America, from all parts of the world. Yes, Moldova. So people have raised hands. We have our Q&A once we start. And just let us know. We're going to be able to clarify all your questions. And we're going to have some important announcements for you briefly here. So don't worry. We will help you with all the questions that you have and also share information about the sessions in a minute or so. Just welcome you in now, just right from Czechia, Lithuania, Romania, Peru. So many people have said hi, and thank you so much to all of you who are taking the time to invest in your development, professional development, to join Macmillan today. And these two amazing speakers that we have with various special sessions. Armenia, hello from Lithuania, Labadiena. So hello from Pakistan, Honduras, hola, buenas tardes, Egypt, hello from Romania, Vietnam, wow, that's amazing. Buenos Aires, Argentina, buenos días. Yeah, so Ukraine, hello. Hello from Greece there, Malaysia, wow, there's the whole world is here with us today, eh? Ain't that amazing? Toronto, hello, Uruguay, wow. Yeah, my grandfather was born in Kaunas, Lithuania. That's why aš kalbu truput lietuviškai. So Argentina there, yeah. Okay, Poland there. Awesome. Vietnam, Slovakia, Ecuador. All right, so we are welcoming you guys. Please come on in. Welcome everyone. Netherlands, Spain. So many of you today with us, and we are about to start. So I'm going to share my slides in 1 minute so we can begin. But you know, it was great to have these 5 minutes to see how many of you are out there. My name is Alex. I'm going to be your host today. Yeah. Thank you, Lecandre Neringa. Thank you. Yeah, the name gave it away. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So many people from Czech Republic, Thailand, Kazakhstan, Saudi Arabia, but I think I have to start Georgia. Yeah, so let me just share my slides so we can begin right away. with the sessions because today we have a great program. Here, sharing my screen. All right, so everyone, welcome officially to the Global Teachers Festival 2025. Well, today is the 8th day of the festival, and we are going to have some amazing sessions, as I said before. There you see the amazing roster that we have for 2025 with beautiful sessions that we've had and still are going to have more for you. So we had David Crystal, Harry Waters, so many speakers that have shared their ideas and research right with us. Very special to have this moment in February every year, right? And today we are going to have these two amazing sessions there, right? We have the first session for you in a few minutes. It's called It's Not Like in My Day, Understanding Today's Teenagers by Usoa Sol. So this is going to be the first one. And after Usoa, we're going to have a second session, which is called Navigating Distraction, Classroom Strategies for iGen Engagement by Alicja Galazka. So this is going to be great for us to navigate with teenagers. I mean, especially for teachers who teach teens, it's going to be great for us to be more familiar with the iGen and how to engage them, and also with Usoa session and understanding more how to deal with strategies and opportunities, learning opportunities for teens. All right, so in a couple minutes, we will have Usoa with us. And in the meantime, we are going to talk about the fact that you guys are going to get certificates, right? Don't worry about that, because a lot of times you ask us, oh, well, when are we going to get the certificates? We're going to explain in detail all that, but it's going to be fast for you to go to get them because you've registered. So we have your email and everything, and we're going to share all the information and send you everything through email. But yeah, the day today is, like I said, we have this special moment for you, and we're going to focus right now on teens. But the whole program is, I mean, you have everything you need, right? The whole menu for all ages and scenarios. And so please just go to macmillanenglish.com for you to check out more about the program. But today, that's the iGeneration, the focus of day 8. All right. Again, as I was saying, we have the certificate of attendance, right? And a virtual goodie bag. So we got lots for you. So you're going to get a certificate. You're going to get more through the goodie bag. And again, you've registered, you've given us your email, and the max of time that you're going to have to wait will be hypothetically a week, but it's going to be there before that. Okay, so right after the session, just wait for the certificate and your goodie bag with lots of special things that we've prepared for you. However, if you have any questions, we have the email right there, ELT Webinars. And basically just send us an email if you need help, but it's going to be fine. You're going to have everything you need because you've registered with your current email, and it's going to be great for us to send you lots of current information. All righty. So today we have Usoa Sol with us today, and I'm curious about some aspects of her bio here. Hi, Usoa, how are you?
Alex, nice to be here.
Yeah, great to have you here. Thank you so much. And yeah, so how was your life in Barcelona? I mean, are you originally from Barcelona? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm 100% Barcelonian, born and raised. The only thing is that my mom is from the Basque Country, and that's why I have such a uncommon name. Usoa basically means dove. So
Oh,
my mom's name is Paloma in Spanish, dove, and so I have the same name but in Basque. And so
nice. Well, I
they
didn't know that. Yeah, no, no, that's great. And so you like you said, spent some time in Barcelona. but you had the opportunity to visit various parts of Spain and various parts of Europe in general. Yeah, tell us just share some special moments that you've had due to, you know, being a teacher and exchanging information.
Well, I mean, I really like traveling, so I've been to quite a few English-speaking countries, and I think this is one of the main things that I bring into the classroom, the mix of Englishes, in fact, and the mix of cultures that I've lived in. So my students always ask, but Usoa, what English are we learning? And I say, well, you're learning Usoa English, which is a mix of all the places I've been to and all the people I've met. And I think, you know, I mean, that shows them that, well, to start, English is not just one thing, but English really gives you the opportunity of like meeting people from all over the world, communicating, and basically learning from everyone. So I think that's one of the things I enjoy the most, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, it's great to know more about you. And now the stage is yours. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and you're going to be able to share your screen with everyone and let us know more because we're so curious about your session in order for us to understand more about teenagers. So yeah, take it away.
Okay. Thanks so much. See if I can share full screen. Is this full screen now? No.
I think it's still, yeah, under the,
No.
like the normal slide. Yeah,
Screen?
let's see.
Oops. Am I actually? Wait. Okay, wait. Let me start over again. That's technology
No
for you.
problem.
Okay, so that's my desktop.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There you go.
It should be, yeah.
Now?
Now it's,
There you go. We're good to
oh
go.
yeah, now it's perfect. All right. See you later.
Well, so thanks a lot for the introduction. So like Alex said, I'm an English teacher in Barcelona, based in Barcelona. I have 20 years teaching experience with teenagers. And most recently, I also have a teenager at home as a mom. So I'm surrounded by teenagers 24/7 now, which is amazing. I would say pretty intense, but really cool nevertheless. So, all right. So this is our plan for our session. Hold on. I went ahead of myself. There you go. So this is the plan for our session. First of all, we're going to look at what teenagers nowadays are like, and I'll need your help with that. And then we're going to look at how to take advantage of those features and incorporate them in our classroom. So how to teach the alpha teens, and I'll give you some tips and show you some sample activities that have worked well in my lessons. One of the first tips is this here. You can see my alter ego. Use loads of images and GIFs, and I love GIFs. So anyway, so without further ado, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to Emily Bryson and to, hold on, I learned his name, I hope, Grzegorz Śpiewak. Yeah, I think I got it right this time. Hopefully, if there are people from Poland, you can double check that I said it right. He gave a session for Macmillan on how learning happens and why we should care, connected with generations and teens. And this was great inspiration for the talk today. And I also wanted to thank Emily Bryson because she did the sketchnoting for this session. So thanks a lot for my two sources of inspiration, among others. We're talking here about the alpha generation, or Gen Z, sometimes it's called as well. The alpha generation is anyone who was born in 2010 or after. So personally, to me, 2010 sounds like it's around the corner, but it's already been 15 years. And so 2010 was when the first iPad was invented, when Instagram was launched. So quite a long time ago, actually. All right, so, oops, sorry. I don't know what I did. I just clicked on the link. There you go. All right, so this is where I need your help. So my question is, what are today's teens like? And instead of doing it through the chat, I've created this Slido presentation so you can contribute your ideas in a word cloud. So let me type the, oh my God, I'm sorry. Technology today is sort of playing up. Let me show you this slide. You can screenshot the picture, or you can go to slido.com, www.slido.com, and input this code. hopefully, I wanted to, oh, hi from Mexico. Okay. Okay, done. Instead of doing it through the chat, it'd be great if you could do it through the Slido link so we can all get a picture of how things work. Let me show you what you're actually writing. There you go, look. See if you can, I'll make it bigger for you. So this is a word cloud, the word cloud that you're creating with all your contributions. So they're, for example, they're anxious, they're tech savvy, they're challenging, they're artificial, they're self-aware, they're technological, self-motivated, uninterested, depending on what. Okay, some people in the chat are contributing as well. Oh, you need the code, please. Sorry, yeah. The code is right. Thing is, I can't send a message to everyone. Ah, there you go. Yeah, sorry. The code is here. 1298455. There you go. So these are all the things that you're saying. Words that appear bigger, it's because a lot more people are saying them. So tech savvy, easily distracted, definitely. Alicia is going to talk about distractions in the teenage classroom later. They're creative, on the other hand, so not everything is bad. They're sensitive, they're challenging, they're digital natives, they're smart, technological, Sigma, exactly. Sigma, skibbity, yeah, all these things. They're understanding, they're a lot more empathetic than we think sometimes. Vulnerable, independent, short attention span, obviously. Unfocused, I think this is linked. Communicative, okay. Open-minded, sassy. Yeah, there's a lot of sass in teenagehood, I think. Some people are saying in the chat, dynamic, insecure, addicted to social media, creative. All right, so that gives us sort of a picture of where we're at. And the cool thing is that we're from different countries from all over the world. I was seeing Turkey, Ukraine, Argentina, Uruguay, Kazakhstan. There are lots of different places, but there's a common ground, right? There's a commonality between teenagers in all these different places. So this means we have some sort of groundwork to work with, or Saudi Arabia as well, Sri Lanka, Colombia. Yeah, sorry, I'm forgetting countries because there's so many. Hello from Peru. Okay, hi, Jacqueline. So anyway, this is our starting point. This is what we need to work with. This is what we have, or who we have in the classroom, right? So what I wanted to do with you now is to look at these features and see how we can incorporate them in our classroom. Sorry, Andy, name of the tool is Slido, slido.com. It's similar to Menti. Yes, Slido. And you can create word clouds like this. All right, so let me go back to the presentation. And let me show you the first feature that I've chosen, which is empowered. I think you will all agree that teenagers nowadays are quite empowered. They think, yeah, they know. They're very critical with things. They're very inquisitive. They ask lots of questions. They always want to know why things are this way, why they're doing this, why it works this way. But they're also at the same time aware of world issues and what's going around them. So how can we deal with this in the classroom? What can we do to make sure that we address this sort of features and integrate them? Well, the first thing is designing challenging tasks that connect the classroom with the real world. I think this is essential. And then another thing that we could or should do is be open to suggestions and show that we are active listeners and trying to provide choice whenever this is possible. And I know from my experience, not only in the classroom, but also at home. So trying to be active listeners, trying to be open to what the teenager in front of you has to say, because often their opinions and their suggestions are really valid and very interesting. So exactly, engaging them in activities, making them involved, totally. Yeah, all of this goes along these lines. And I wanted to show you this tool that I use very often with my students. It's called Wheel of Names. This is just one of the websites you can use, but there are many. And this is basically an interactive wheel with their names. You can see here, these are my real students' names. They were working in groups of 3, and we were about to do a project. And so there were a list of topics for them to choose from. But of course, there's always some conflict because more than one group wanted to choose the same topic. And I thought that was not very appropriate because I wanted to cover all the topics. And so I created this wheel with their names. And how it works is that you spin the wheel and the group or the person whose name appears here in front of the arrow is like the winner. and so gets to pick first. So this is really easy. It's really easy to make. It took literally 30 seconds, copy paste the names. And it's hassle-free because I was not forced to choose anything. It was the wheel who did it. So basically they couldn't complain. And they got the idea that I was listening to them. I was letting them choose without me taking the decisions. So that worked really, really well. Oh, hi from Vilnius. Hi, Yolanda. Okay. The name of the last tool, Wheel of Names, maybe? I don't know. Hopefully. Exactly. All right. So next feature that I wanted to discuss with you is global. This is Global Teachers Festival. I mean, actually, we're here together from all around the globe. But teenagers nowadays are also global citizens, and they're used to meeting people and connecting with people from all over the world, be it through social media, be it through video games, just meeting people. For example, here in Barcelona, there are a lot of people, international people. And so this is a huge difference between, for example, when I was a teenager, which is quite a few years ago, because I'm an 80s child, basically. So, and this should be taken into account in our lessons, because no matter if they're shy, teenagers are very used to collaborating, to interacting, to talking to people, to discussing things. And I think this is something that we should regularly incorporate in our lessons. And one way I do this in my lessons, which works really well, and that's why I wanted to show you this, is by doing pair challenges, right? Partner challenges. This one, for example, is called the irregular verb challenge. You can imagine that it's to deal with irregular verbs, which are not particularly fun to learn, in fact. And what I did was I created this chart here on the right, and students paired up in groups of 2, and they decided what kind of questions they wanted to ask their partner about which verbs. And these are verbs that we had sort of gone over in class and studied. And they also had the regular verb list at the end of their students' book, so they could check it if they had questions. And here to the left, you can see all the scaffolding. I came up with 5 different types of questions that students could ask each other. And you can see that they're awarded different amount of points depending on their level of difficulty. So for example, translation questions are 10 points, whereas reverse translation, so from their mother tongue to English, which is more difficult, is 15 points. Yeah, so this scaffolding serves not only as an example for students, but also as a tool to then use when they're asking their partners. So they don't say break, but they ask, so how do you say break in Catalan, for example? Catalan is most of my students' mother tongue. And of course, the points adds an element of competition, gamification, which always works great with teenagers. I've created a PDF from this template, so I can give you the link later where you can download it at the end of the session if you like. And now let me give you a couple of samples, real samples. This is Aran and Paul, for example. You can see Aran was asking Paul, and Paul got all the answers right. He got 130 points. Aran got 8 out of 10 answers right. He got 105 points, which is actually really good. And then here you can see Daniela, who was working with Hugo. They could only ask each other, or Daniela could only ask Hugo 5 questions, and she color-coded them, which is linked to Anna's session yesterday, right? And here Isabel also color-coded the questions, and you can see she didn't use any translation questions, only difficult questions, right? Pronunciation, spelling, reverse translation. So the level of the students can be tweaked to their choice. All right, more things. I also wanted to discuss this visual element. I started my presentation with a GIF of me saying hello. I love this kind of things. And I think it's essential to incorporate different sort of media, images, icons, audiovisual contents in the lessons, because teens nowadays are very visual, and they're used to the visual element surrounding them. So how can you incorporate images in the classroom? This is an activity I love and I do almost every week. I've used it as a warm-up at the beginning of the session or as a wrap-up at the end of the session. And this is an activity that I learned from a fellow teacher from Spain, from Madrid, called Sara. And you can find her on Instagram under the handle Teaching Teacup. And so this is something that I do with my students. I project this sort of 9-square grid, and this is called On a Scale Of. In this case, I chose Harry Potter, on a scale of Harry Potter, because I have a lot of Potterheads in my classes. And so they all get very excited to see Harry Potter. And the question I ask my students this time is, how are you feeling today and why? So the students have to choose which Harry Potter they're feeling like, and why. The beauty of this is that the images sort of hint toward a feeling, but they're not limited. So for example, in number 3, you could say he is worried, he's sad, he is absent-minded, something like this. So, I mean, it's open to interpretation. So now I'm asking you, 30 seconds. How are you feeling today and why? If I have to give an example, which I always do with my students, I would say I'm feeling like number 8. So I would say ecstatic because I'm delighted to be here again. This is my 2nd year here and I'm delighted. Okay, so let me see your numbers and your reasons. Which Harry Potter are you feeling like? So like number 9, okay. Like number 1, happy to be here. Like number 1. 3, it was a busy day. Yeah, I can imagine. 8, 4, due to weather. Oh, I hope it's not too cold there. 3, tired. Okay, 3, very early in the morning. Okay. 8, good news. Yeah. 1, fine. Okay. So energized about the techniques. Glad to hear that. That's really cool. Happy to be here. Curious. Lots of 8s. So that's great. Lots of 1s. Happy to be here. Number 3, tired. I can imagine it's been a long day. In any case, this works great with teenagers. Again, it ties in with expressing their feelings, social emotional learning. So it's always a hit every time I do it. One more thing that you mentioned, and that I also totally agree with, is that teenagers nowadays are digital natives, or so-called digital natives, because they're very good at things like TikTok, video editing, typing really fast on their phone, things like this. But for example, they might not be as efficient sharing files on Google Drive or editing text or sending an email and not writing everything in the subject matter. So they're digital natives with some things, but not all of them, right? Yeah, Grace says, yet they cannot figure out how to attach a document on an assignment. Exactly. So I would say digital natives, so selective digitally natives, right? They use it for their own benefits. Exactly, Danny. So they're probably very good at what they're interested in, which might not exactly be academic, right? And that's why, yeah, Aroa is saying for social media, yeah, social media, they're really, really, really good at. So I believe, given these characteristics, that we should definitely integrate technology in our classrooms, but do so in a sensible way, trying to select the most appropriate tools and showing them how to use them, not only in the classroom, but also outside the classroom, because email, for example, is not only a school thing, although teenagers nowadays see it only as a school thing, but it will be a work thing as well someday. So I think it's essential to show them the existence of these tools and teach them, or like help them to learn how to use them, be it web tools, be it spell checkers, dictionaries, or AI, for example. And so one of the things that I show my students that I really like is word reference. This is basically my go-to dictionary. And I show them this dictionary because it works really, really well. And so by the end of the first term, I drill my students and I encourage them, drill/encourage them to use word reference instead of Google Translate or instead of ChatGPT all the time. And by the end of the first term, I usually ask them, okay, so if you have a question and you need a dictionary, what are you going to use? And they usually shout word reference, as in like Ghostbusters sort of thing. So yeah, I use word reference all the time. Yeah, Romia, you say word reference is great. Exactly. So yeah, web dictionary. I mean, there are lots of dictionaries. Danny's saying you use Lingua. Lingua is also really good. And of course, teaching them how to use a dictionary is useful. An online dictionary, obviously, is really useful. Something else that I also use with my students a lot, and also use myself as a teacher, is Language Tool. Language Tool is a great spell checking device, or spell checking tool more than device. Yeah, Luis is saying it's environmentally friendly too. Exactly, everything is online. So there's no need to download Language Tool on your computer. It's just an extension on your Google Chrome, which is very convenient. And what I do is the first time I show my students this tool, I give them these instructions that you can see on the screen. It's a step-by-step sort of guide on how to install Language Tool in their computers and how to do it. So make a copy of this document, don't edit this document, edit your copy, change their name. It's all very step by step, because they're digital natives, but not so much when it comes to editing Google Docs documents, for example. And this serves also as a checklist, as a step-by-step checklist that the students can then follow. And what I do with Language Tool, I get students to write their text by hand, and then I collect them and give them feedback. And then for the final version, for the definitive version, they type up their text, which they take quite long with. And then I ask them to correct their text with Language Tool. So once they have their typed text, they make a copy, they basically duplicate the text, and using Language Tool, they make all the corrections. But they have to be a bit careful because I tell them that Language Tool is a very useful tool, but they should be critical. They should be critical with the suggestions. And I always give the same example. In my case, when I type something on Language Tool and I mention my name, Usoa always comes up as a mistake. And I say, well, no, Language Tool does not know that Usoa is correct because it's my name. So I shouldn't be blindfoldedly believing what the tool says, but I should be critically taking a look. So some of the corrections I accept, some of the corrections I say, no, this is not correct, or I don't like this. And so with Language Tool's corrections or suggestions, they highlight the changes they make in their text, and then they collect all their mistakes in a learning journal. Yeah, Sonia Aranda is saying, same with translators, you have to be critical. Exactly. I'm actually a translator, so like background wise, and I think that's why I always have that in my head. So thanks for your contribution, Sonia. And so anyway, students take their mistakes, their own individual mistakes, and they analyze them and classify them in a learning journal using the correction code that I've given them at the beginning of the year, which I also prepared for you to download if you like. So I give them groups of mistakes, categories of mistakes, and the students have to put their mistakes into the different categories and correct them. So let me show you an example. This is, on the left is Mila's example. You can see that she had a lot of spelling mistakes, which she corrected, some capitalization mistakes, one verb tense, wrong word, grammar, and preposition. She corrected them and color-coded them. And then to the right is Elena's learning journal. She had quite a lot of spelling mistakes as well, then some word order, wrong word. This really helps students to know what their weakest point is, where they can improve, and it's 100% personalized because these are only their own mistakes. So categorizing, yes, Susanna's saying categorizing is great. Categorizing shows that you've understood. So it's a way of processing information. All right, and last but not least, Amalia saying, great feedback. Thank you. Susanna, excellent idea. Thank you. I do this with every text, or like almost every text I write with my students. And the first time took quite long for them to know the procedure, to understand what they were going through, understand how to install this extension and how it works. But now they're like, okay, Language Tool, learning journal, right? Yeah, you know the drill. So they know how to do it, and it's fine. And so I think this is the beauty of like teaching them, because you're giving your students not only English in this case, but also resources for their future life. Because personally, a lot of you were saying that you also use Language Tool, that you use Lingua, that you use Word Reference. And these are all different tools that the students should be familiar with, or like be able to use to their advantage, in fact, right? All right, so last but not least, something that I wanted to highlight as well from teenagers nowadays, and you said it, some of you said they're spoiled. This is the downside of it, right? Because a lot of them have everything they want at their disposal. They're spoiled for choice. They have so much to choose from, which is really convenient. It really works to their advantage. But at the same time, this is a disadvantage, right, that we should deal with. And so all of this wealth of resources is great to cater for diversity, because we know our classrooms are diverse always, and to offer personalization. But at the same time, I think we should use this opportunity to help students and to ask students to gain ownership of what they're learning and to make them responsible and accountable for what they're learning. Because they have so much to choose from, but they should know how to select, how to use it, and they should be able to analyze what the results are. So in this respect, I created this tool that was inspired by my fellow teacher, Anna, here from Catalonia. And I created this document called Progress Journal. Basically, a progress journal is like a diary, a learning diary, for the students to set weekly goals. Exactly, Nida's saying guide them, and guide them in their learning. So I'm trying to help them to see what they want to achieve. I'm giving them lots of ideas on what they can achieve, how they can achieve it, so what they can do to reach their goals. And then I want them to look back the week after and reflect. Okay, what did I actually do this week? I said I would practice my listening. Did I really do that or not? To what extent am I happy with the results? What results did I see? What was the sort of highest or like hardest thing in this week in my learning? What do I need to do better or different or again? Yeah, somebody's saying sort of coaching them through the progress journal. Totally. There's a bit of coaching in there too. So let me show you how it works. This is what I tell them about the progress journal. They all have their individualized progress journals, and they choose what kind of notebook. Most of them choose a notebook or a notepad. And I showed them my own because I personally started my own progress journal as well. I'm learning Portuguese, and so I wanted to do this myself as a student, as an experiment. Although I have to be honest with you, I started writing it by hand, and now I'm doing it on a Google Docs. So I'm cheating there a little bit because I'm getting my students to do it by hand. But they could all choose their notebooks. Some of the students were doing lettering in the cover, and that was so cute. It was really cool. And so they felt very strongly, they felt very attached to their journals. And this is how we do it. We do it in 2 different sessions. One, I usually have 2 hours of English a week with these students. These are 14, 15-year-old students, level B1, but I mean, it varies a lot. So some students are more like A2 and some students are more like B2. But in theory, they should be at B1 level. And so one day we usually do this on a Thursday. So one Thursday, we take care of part 1 and 2. So in part 1, students set their objectives for the whole week, objectives or just one objective. I'm always saying that less is more. And then they look for ways to achieve their objective. So the question is, what would you like to achieve? How would you like to achieve it? To make them more realistic, to make them more specific. The more specific the goals, the better. And the more accountable I can make my students then. And then this is what they do on Thursday of one week. A week goes by, and the following Thursday, we look at part 3, which is the results and reflection. So I ask my students to reread the objectives they set the week before and to think, okay, what did you really do? What resources did you use? What was the hardest thing for you during the week? And how do you feel? And this last part is also regulating emotions. And I get them to express them visually, which is linked to Emily Bryson's session yesterday, right? With the thermometer. So let me show you a couple of examples. This is the scaffolding that I use. I mean, I spend quite a long time, or like a session at least, going over the journal and giving them ideas. There's an additional worksheet that I give them full of ideas classified by skills, which you can also download through this link I'll give you right now. And this chart sort of thing is scaffolding for the students. So I gave them sentence stems, sentence beginnings, to help those students who need extra support. And I said, I encourage you, not only encourage you, but it's great if you use these sentences. No shame in recycling the sentences. And so what this does is that everyone and anyone can write their progress journal, no matter their level, no matter their abilities in English. Some students write a lot more. Some students write just this, so a couple of sentences. And one student, Carla, actually said once, but this is very little. I'm like, well, if you do this every week, this is not little, this is a lot. It's just very doable every week. Because I don't know about you, but I've tried to go to the gym quite a few times, and I start very, very strong, trying to go there 3 times a week, 4 times a week. And then it just fades because the hype is low. So yeah. And so I'm trying to show them that less is more. Exactly. Neither saying teaching them writing in a smooth way. Exactly. It needs to be non-painful, right? So overcoming writer's block, overcoming the fear of the blank page. Where do I start? This is where you start. You have some sentences that you can fill the gaps for. And it's basically a gap fill if you look at it. And so anyone can do it. And that's why with this support, students feel really confident to do it. So here, for example, is a student, Paul's journal. For example, he said, this week I'm going to improve my listening and speaking. To achieve my objectives, I'm going to speak a lot in my English class after school and watch a film or TV show in English with English subtitles. This student has after school English lessons, but obviously not all of my students do. And then the following week, he said, this week I watched 2 episodes of a TV show in English with English subtitles, which is already great. And I spent 2 hours and 45 minutes speaking English in English class after school. What I found the hardest was understanding all the words in the TV show. And what we were saying, because students then share their goals and their outcomes, what we were saying is that, do you really need to understand all the words in the film? Probably not, right? Here is Mila, and I wanted to show you an example of somebody who's not that happy with their goals too, because Mila said, this week I felt disappointed because I've only overcome, or like achieved rather, half of my goals. So the thermometer is sort of lower, you can see. And this is also okay. I mean, I tell them sometimes life gets in the way, so we cannot be as ambitious as we set out to be. A couple of more examples. Here on the left was Jana, and Jana said at the end, this week I felt happy because I understood some parts of the film. So she set out to improve her speaking by watching a film, and she did it. Here in the middle is Elena's. You can see Elena again. Elena's is actually much longer, so she wrote quite a lot more. But she's not very happy with the results because she said, after this week, I don't feel bad, but I'm not very proud of myself because the objectives I had were not a lot and I didn't do everything in any case. So this is also self-reflection. Exactly. They express themselves freely, neither, exactly. And they also, they're realistic. I mean, sometimes some weeks are better than others. So here, Xavi, for example, the last example, said, I'm not really happy with the results because I didn't complete my goals at 100%. If you see, yeah, this is totally authentic, Maria Inés, thank you. I don't correct this. And the main focus is not on accuracy, but on getting them to write. Yeah, Irene is saying self-criticism, totally. Which graders are your students? These are 14, 15-year-olds. So in Spain, this is ESO 3. Exactly, neither. This is for fluency. This is to get them to overcome their fear for English, which is sometimes quite scary. So, all right, this is basically it from me. We're coming to the end of the session, and I just wanted to recap all the ideas that we've discussed. Basically, the first thing is that it's very important to challenge students and link the outside world with the classroom. Oh, Joanna is saying, sometimes it's better to have less content, but present it in a proper speed to follow and enjoy it. Okay, I hope the rest of you are enjoying it. Thanks for the suggestion, Joanna. In any case, it's really important also to, Will is saying, if you have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A. So I'm trying to look out for the chat as well. So it's really important to foster interaction, group work, pair work, also to integrate the visual element, we already said. And also I have an example here with my Bitmoji. If you're not familiar with Bitmoji, I also find it very useful. In terms of technology, trying to select appropriate tools, use technology sensibly, and trying to help them to learn how to do it, to cater for diversity, to personalize lessons, but also to make them responsible for their own learning and accountable for their own learning. And so this is basically everything that I think should be borne in mind in a teenage classroom nowadays. So if you have any questions, like Will was saying, pop them in the Q&A. And I'd love to hear from you if you implement any of the ideas or if you have any comments or any questions as you teach your students with this. I'm online on LinkedIn at Usoa Sol, which is my full name, and then on Instagram at Ariel Keener, which is what my students call me. And if you want to download the materials, you have the link there on my link tree. So just click on the link and you'll see a menu with things. So, okay. So Alex is back, which means my time is up.
No, but hi, Usoa. Thank you so much. Amazing ideas. People loved it. They've been commenting here in the chat, and we have a couple questions here. The first one is from Orlando Noriega Salazar, and he says, any good book on teens that you could recommend?
Yeah. Teaching teenagers. Let me find the reference for you because I don't know the exact reference, but let me stop sharing. Teresa Bestwick's, let me see, Teaching Teenagers by Teresa Bestwick. So teenagers, Teresa. I wanted to give you the best reference. Teresa's a great presenter. There you go. Teaching Teenagers.
Oh, perfect.
And it's by Delta, so I can put it in the chat. There you go. It's Teresa Bestwick's really cool book with a lot of ideas, actually. And actually, not to blow my own horn, but I also did a mini booklet on how to teach teenagers for Macmillan. So if you are a member of Advantage, I think, you can totally download that as well. Hello from Egypt.
Perfect.
Hi.
No, fantastic. So we have another one from, maybe I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but Boyana Manasiewski. She asks how to help students build confidence, and also how to engage when students are lazy or not motivated.
Okay, this progress journal idea worked really well, especially for this, because motivated learners will always be motivated almost no matter what you do, right? But it's always the unmotivated learners that are hard to sort of challenge and like get going. And so what I would encourage you to do is think small, because often, and I do this myself, often we're very ambitious. We want to go really far. We want students to do a lot of things, and I'm very passionate about things, but not everybody shares the same passion, right? So if you talk to me about football, for example, my passion sort of wanes because I'm not a big football fan. But if we talk about languages, then I'm all over the place for you. So I think we need to take that into account as well. Not everybody is super motivated to learn English. And so like less is more.
Perfect. And I think we have time for one last question. Some anonymous here attendee asked us about the journals, if they are supposed to be filled out at home or in the classroom.
No, always in the classroom. Writing, I usually do in the classroom because otherwise it's usually ChatGPT doing the writing instead of them. So I try to be there with them, go around, sort of help them. And I don't usually assign writing for homework. The results I get with the writing when I assign it for homework are not realistic because the students don't do the writings themselves.
Well, and since you talked about AI, Zarina asks if you yourself use AI sometimes to create tasks, if you've been.
A lot. Yeah.
Cool.
But I don't lie about it. So, I tell my students, I did this with ChatGPT, but then what I did was go over it, and some of the stuff I changed because I didn't like, or like I didn't think it was appropriate. And I sometimes do experiments. This was really funny because I did an experiment. I'm also teaching Spanish nowadays. And so I did an experiment. I asked ChatGPT to come up with like a certain amount of sentences with some certain specific structure. And so the sentences were so boring and like old fashioned. And so I asked the machine, okay, could you sort of spice them up for teenagers who are more or less 14, 15 years old? And the machine came up with such crazy ideas, as in like, I don't know, Sophia sang a motivational rap to her cat. And I'm like, what? That's not motivating. That's just plain crazy. And so I showed them, look, this is what I asked ChatGPT to do. And this is what the machine did. So you can imagine I discarded these results because it was completely off. And so they had a laugh, but this was to show them you should be using these tools critically because what you get is not always what you should get, right? So
Absolutely.
they said
Yeah. So the 4 C's, right? Collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. So phenomenal. Well, I think we don't have any time for other questions, but this was super helpful, Usoa. Thank you so much. Yeah. And we'll see you next time.
Cool. Really glad to be here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, everyone. So We are going to have a short break now. It's a 5-minute break, but before that, I'm gonna play a video about one of our new releases, an amazing product called Find Your Voice. It's a course book that you are going to know more about in 1 second. So let me just share my screen here again. Feel free to watch the video and then grab a cup of coffee or tea, and we'll see you again in 5 minutes, all right? So let's just put it like so. And see you guys in a bit. Right, everyone, we are back in business. How is everyone today? We already have Alicia with us. Hi, Alicia, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, it's great. I was reading about you here and wow, it's amazing. I have a question for you, Alicia. What inspired you to combine all these elements? I mean, psychology and drama you'll see in your career when you first started. Tell us a little bit more about it.
My curiosity and ADHD that I couldn't stop on doing one. No, actually, I always loved English and psychology. So, and then I went to UK, to Exeter, and I studied drama. Actually, I went there to do PhD in some semantics, but finally I met some people doing drama and I got completely enchanted by that. So I tried to combine psychology and English with drama. Yeah, and yeah, well, and then so I do lots of psychology, psychotherapy actually, but also using drama because it's my passion. So process drama and psychodrama, and I find it really very useful also for teaching and helping teachers with some emotional problems and some other things in the classroom. So yeah.
Wow, no, that's pretty impressive for sure. And I see here like 300 articles and so
Maybe
much.
more.
Another question, yeah, maybe more. So I have another question about that. So basically, with all these books and articles, is there any like specific one that you would like to maybe share, or that currently you've been dealing more with your research and maybe share with the folks out there?
Yes, I write lots of academic articles and books, which are probably not necessarily useful for practical use, but I would like to recommend my book on process drama as a toolkit for teaching English and life skills, which I wrote 2 years ago with my friend Patrice Baldwin, and I think that it's really very useful for teachers because I try to analyze some life skills which really also Generation Z needs, but we also presented some very practical drama scenarios, like step by step what teachers can do in the classroom and how to use them. So I think this book is really worth looking at or buying at Amazon or Bloomsbury because it was published
Yeah,
by
no.
Bloomsbury. Yeah,
Oh, okay. So it's easy to find it online. Yeah,
yeah,
so
it's
thank you
easy to
so
find.
much for sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, well, with that said, I think it's going to be great for us to know more about your talk today, navigating distraction, classroom strategies for iGen engagement. I myself am very curious about finding out more about that topic. And with your background in psychology and everything, it's going to be great for us to get your ideas. So the stage is yours, Alicia. Please take it away, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me share my screen now. Okay. Well, okay. Can you see it? Yeah. Well, right. So once again, thank you very much for the introduction and for inviting me to this year's festival, Global Teachers Festival, which is absolutely my favorite ELT event. It's really a celebration like festival. So I do like it. Thank you very much for joining me. I can see people from all over the world. I love traveling. So and when I see where you are from, it really is very close to me because I visited many places in Asia and in Africa and America, and I always think that it's great to have friends everywhere. And we live in so many different places, but we are still one big family, one big community. Well, so today we have been talking about iGeneration, Gen Generation, whatever name we give to them. And in the first session, actually, you have already somehow characterized the digital natives or Zoomers and screensters. So I'm not going to focus that much on the characteristics, but still I would like to recap a little bit what is important, in my opinion, also when we look at the learning process, teaching process from psychological point of view. As I'm a psychologist, psychotherapist, so I will try to look at this from this perspective, okay? So, well, of course, the digital natives, highly proficient in technology, using smartphones, social media platforms, all these things, of course. They are visual learners, and I think we all know that visual content, such as videos, images, it's something the generation likes, and it resonates well, and it gives them better understanding. So text is being replaced by images, we can say. Yeah? They are authenticity seekers. Definitely, the new generation, they value authentic and transparent communication. It's really important for them how we communicate with them, how teacher communicates with them. So they really favor genuine interactions. Personalization. Ursula has already said about that. Personalization, that it's important that we create experiences which are based on their individual interests and needs, because they don't want to learn something which is not relevant to them. A need for instant feedback is important, because a need for instant feedback and rewards is something very typical of this generation. The constant stimulation creates like a dopamine-driven feedback loop, and it gives them pleasure and reward. So somehow they are dependent on this dopamine pleasure and reward. FOMO, we know, like anxiety of being disconnected. We can also observe it even among older generation, how much we're attached to it. Boredom. So students from Z generation, they have aversion to tasks which they perceive as irrelevant or unengaging. And it's also important from the teaching point of view. Of course, limited attention span. That's really interesting, that current estimates suggest that the average attention span of iGen has declined to around 8 seconds. So it's shorter than that of a goldfish, because goldfish attention span is 9 seconds. And it is a huge challenge for us teachers, I guess. Also multitasking. Gen Z juggle like 5 screens at a time, and it's not difficult for them. They multitask. But unfortunately, the research shows that multitasking not always bring good results, because very often the focus is decreased and they can't really concentrate. They can't learn as much as they could if they didn't do so many things at the same time. But on the other hand, the research shows that iGeneration watching some ads for shorter than 2 seconds, they can remember more, twice more the generation over 40. So they have this enormous ability to pay attention to very short video, for instance. Okay, so reduced attention. It's important when we look at the learning process, because reduced attention really inhibits students' ability to engage in deep learning. We know that deep learning means that we try to build some higher order skills, like thinking critically, solving some complex problems, work collaboratively, communicate, learn how to learn, all these things connected with developing some academic mindsets. So deeper learning, unfortunately, is very much reduced if the attention is not good enough. Mental health. Ursula has already mentioned a little bit about it, but because of my background, I'm really very much cautious about mental health or Generation Z, because nearly 2/3 of Gen Zers report experiencing at least one mental problem during last 2 years. So they say that about 44% say that they have like anxious feelings, or they are constantly nervous, and 33% say that they are depressed. So they suffer from depression and hopeless feelings. Also, the report prepared by the Gallup Institute presents the results, which show that almost half, so 50% of Gen Zers often always feel anxious. So we have this problem that Generation Z has reported higher level of stress and anxiety when you compare it to previous generations. Why is it so? Of course, there are many different reasons of depression, of mental illnesses, and I have no time actually to explore it more, but it's very, very important. So the average young person has declined some abilities, and that's what they say, that they have they have the ability to do the following things decline, like name and understand feelings, recognize recurring patterns of thought and behavior, weigh the pros and cons of decisions, navigating feelings, stay motivated by meaningful values, see new possibilities, emphasize with others, and feel connected to a bigger purpose. That's what actually research shows, and the Generation Z says. So one of the biggest problem is concentration. We know that the concentration is the secret of strength. That's what Ralph Waldo Emerson said. And I think now we have the people Generation Z born digital. And if we can even share the story of distracted generations. So very often we say that they face the distraction crisis, that Generation Z, they face distraction crisis. So before we talk what to do about distraction, let's try to understand what distraction is and what it means, because we can look at the distractions from different perspectives. It's a multifaceted phenomena that has, of course, profound implications for learning and cognitive performance. And from psychological point of view, the psychological research suggests that distractions can come from two sources, internal and external. So external distractions, they include like visual or auditory stimuli in the environment. So it can be a noise from classmates. Sometimes we have students who are really very noisy. And also, of course, it could be notifications from electronic devices. But besides that, we also have internal distractions, which involve our thoughts, emotions, stressors that compete also for attention. Sometimes our thoughts, can be very distracting because we go somewhere else. Yeah. So from psychological point of view, we know that learning is a cognitive process which deeply rely on attention. So if you want to learn something, you need to have the ability to select and on some information. You have to be able to filter some information. And the research also demonstrated that even brief distractions can significantly impair students' ability to retrieve information and apply knowledge effectively. So interruptions during learning, such as checking messages, engaging with social media, really can lead to substantial reduction in retention and recall, as I said here. The neurobiological roots of distraction. From a neurobiological perspective, distraction is closely linked to the brain's reward system, which is designed to seek our novelty and instant gratification. That's what I've already mentioned. So the constant availability of digital stimuli activates the brain's dopamine system. It releases feel-good chemicals that motivate us to engage with our devices. It's very similar, the mechanism is very similar as the one which leads to addiction, because our brains become conditioned to crave the instant gratification and constant stimulation provided by technology. So it's quite dangerous because some changes happen also on the neural level, and our brains are changing or the students' brains are changing because of using the devices. Of course, there are some cognitive costs of distraction. When students feel distracted, the cognitive resources are divided between the task they have at hand and also the digital stimuli which compete for the attention. And it impairs working memory, reduces learning efficiency, decreases retention. Lots of research on that in journals of educational psychology if anybody's interested. Also, it can have a big impact on social and emotional level. So increased distraction in the classroom may contribute, first of all, to feelings of anxiety and frustration among students. So we can observe so-called cycle of distraction and emotional dysregulation. Students are emotionally dysregulated. It's quite visible nowadays. Also, peer relationships can be affected because what students may choose to engage in some distraction-related behaviors out of their social obligation or fear of missing out. So they are not present in the moment and in the place where they are. Yeah, and sometimes you can see students, being somewhere else. I don't know if you have it with your students, but I work at university, so I have this elder generation Z students, but still sometimes they are not present. We are talking about something, but they are not there. And of course, it has a huge impact on academic performance because there's a notion of context-dependent memory, which plays a critical role in learning, especially when learning occurs in a distracted state. What happens? The neural pathways associated with the learning may not be effectively encoded. So it leads to difficulties when students try to attempt to recall some information later. Then we have a phenomenon called task switching. We all know it, or the effort to juggle multiply cognitive demands, and it leads to cognitive overhead. And this overhead usually manifests in increased mental fatigue and decreased ability to do some complex tasks. So again, there is lots of evidence and research showing how much it's all correlated. This mental fatigue our students experience. So as you see, it's not easy. We can look at distraction from different perspectives, and I can of course talk more and more, but I don't have much more time. So how can a distracted generation learn anything, or how to adapt the traditional curriculum, and to accommodate students with some different probably ways of teaching and learning? It's not easy. And again, there are many debates, discussions, how to do it, what to do. Of course, we always say that meet students where they are. So first we have to access and then engage. You need to know who you have in your classroom, and you need to know what they like and how they operate. So even such thing like some digital habits and expectation is good when you access and align the digital habits of your students, because it has completely changed. As I said, even at the university, my students who are not teenagers because they are already in their 20s, they have a completely different expectations, different digital habits. Even the apps they use are different. So when you look at the apps being used, look, we have Gen Z use some dedicated messaging apps to communicate with different groups of people, different with families, different with their peers, with some interest groups, completely different. So of course, here you have some statistics which have been changing drastically every month, actually. How often US students check their mobile phone, like every 4 minutes, or how much time they spend and during the month or day using the devices. I can imagine that it might be different in different countries, but still there are the statistics which are, I think, close to all of us. And what is important, the messages sent via dedicated messaging apps, they have higher open rate. And it's important that if you want to use some apps, let's use the ones they are using. Yeah. So for instance, emails, because it was quite interesting for me to find out that students don't check emails. I send emails to my students at university, and very often they don't respond, because it turns out that 67% of Gen Z rarely or never or almost never use email to communicate. Over 30% claim to have more than 1,000 unread emails. 1 in every 8 emails are opened, and 75% of students avoid phone calls, which is also quite interesting, I think. So what else can we tell about iGenes? First of all, you have already mentioned it, I guess, when you were describing the generation. The Generation Z has a strong sense of self-determination and self-agency. These people, the young people, they don't rely on elders for information as much as the previous generation did. You know, they are not afraid to challenge things. They are really very, very, they have very internal locus of control. They self-efficacy seems to be high. Sometimes it's just very apparent, and when you look deeper, it's not that good, but still the agency and self-determination is really, really high. So how to get and keep just that attention? It's really, really a challenge. Of course, we can aim for under 2 minutes, but how can you teach anything if it's shorter than 2 minutes? We can suggest different things. Short form videos are definitely perfect for social media platforms, but we need to keep in mind that they can switch from different devices, 5 devices at the same time. So it's quite important that, you know, they can't keep their attention on one thing. So what can we do? We can give short bursts of content, first thing. We can break up lectures every 10 minutes by playing a video or having a discussion or group activity. So just break the lecture into smaller chunks. Encourage students to get up and move around the classroom, because this is a very kinesthetic generation. This generation likes movement. They don't want to sit at a desk in one place. They definitely feel better when they go around, when they can have a chance to talk to each other and move around. There's a technique used very often in management and also in business institutions, which probably you are familiar with that. It's called the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro techniques means that the ideal unit of work is 25 minutes, and then we should have a 2 or 5 minute break. With your students, the ideal unit of work can be even shorter, and then you can have a break. So it means that you can have a device like this Pomodoro, do something, and then after 10 minutes, 50 or 20, just change it. And you can have a sound announcing that 10 minutes has passed or 20 minutes has passed. And so it can help to structure their brains and focus on the activity you are just doing. Next thing is teach how to think, because as we already all said, I think now it's not difficult to get information, because there are many sources of information, and the generation Z is really very competent at finding information. But information becomes ubiquitous, and success is no longer about having and knowing most, but its ability to think critically and creatively. Yeah? So of course, ironically, the very skill that digital media undermines by lowering the attention span. So it's very important to teach how to think, how to teach critically, and how to teach creatively. So if you think of Zuckerberg, Gates, or Sandberg, all these people, it's funny, but it's, I think, worth remembering. They are very successful today, but it wasn't because they could code. It was because they could think. So thinking skill, critical thinking skill, creative thinking skill, this is something our students need, and we should teach them. So all these digital skills are important, but we need to foster digital literacy, critical thinking by helping students to develop skills to evaluate credibility and accuracy of information they get, and also just to create some responsible online behavior. So you have to teach students about their digital citizenship, online safety, many other things which are connected also with ethical use of technology. What can we do? What else? Because sometimes we think that that students have no chance to live without the devices, without phones, and so on. And I would like to suggest that it's good to organize something like phone freeze. So you can ask your students to put the phones away and freeze in a place for 10 minutes. And during this time, you can have time to reflect on what and why they get distracted, what distracts them most. Maybe it is just the phone, and how they can minimize distractions in future. So after this freeze, you can facilitate the discussion. But it's good just to have this moment when they freeze. Sometimes it's also good to have something like no phone challenge. It's the challenge is the idea proposed by Sugata Mitra, probably familiar with this lecturer and speaker. And he suggested that it would be great if you encourage your students to participate in a non-phone challenge. And nowadays we have lots of different challenges connected with being fit, being slim and so on. So the challenge would be like abstaining from using their phones for, let's say, 12 hours, 42 hours, depending what you want. You can also provide your students with some incentives for successful completion of this task, of this challenge, some reward or bonus point, whatever. And then you discuss the results and talk about these difficulties or how they felt and so on. And it's possible. Then we have something called phone-free zones. When you have, a place in the classroom designate as a phone-free zone, where students are encouraged to put the phones away and engage with the peers. But it's important to create a visually appealing display, to remind students of phone-free zone, and everybody should respect it, also teachers. Yeah? So then you can expand the zone, but it's good to have a place where mobile phones or any devices are not used, and it's actually forbidden to use. Then we have something like digital detox. So it's good to organize something like a detox event, could be different, where students and teachers abstain again from using devices for a certain period. But it's a challenge for teachers because it means that you have to organize something really engaging, something which would be entertaining, and students would be really participating in it. On the left, you have here the photo shows the detox camp in Taiwan, where students were participating in the camp for 2 weeks without any digital devices. And afterwards, it turned out that the level of frustration, anxiety went down, and actually they felt really very well. Only the beginning was hard because, everybody is so much used to using phones. Another thing is focus on flow. I'm sure you are familiar with this concept of flow. So how to focus on flow. So you have to introduce the concept of flow, explain how it helps students to stay focused and engaged. Again, to do it, you have to design a project or lesson which requires students to work in the state of flow. So, I would like you to reflect when you are in a state of flow. So what do you have any activity which you are so completely immersed that you don't think about anything else? Yeah, I love skiing, for instance. So when I ski, I forget about all my problems and things I have to do. Different things. It's difficult because it can be like, like drama activity. It can be like project where students are totally immersed and they forget about anything else. It works. The next thing is self-reflection. Ursula has already talked about the diary, and I would also suggest to introduce a concept of self-reflection and its role in developing self-awareness and self-regulation. So not necessarily you have to write a journal about your progress, but also you can write a journal where you put down your thoughts, feelings, behavior, to create a higher level of self-awareness, because very often our students and also us adults, we are not fully self-aware, emotionally. And I think it does help to deal with difficult thoughts, difficult emotions, also not only students, but also teachers. It can be also connected with mindfulness practice. We have been talking a lot about mindfulness recently, but it does help. We use mindfulness practice also to work with depressed students, with patients. So mindful breathing and some exercises connected with focusing attention on one thing, they can really help and they can work. You can even introduce something called body scan meditation. So you scan your body. I think we had one day here during the festival dedicated to mindfulness. So probably you know it. Mindful breathing, lots of different exercises. There's also exercise called RAIN, recognize, allow, investigate, and non-judge. So your thoughts and emotions. You can prepare a soundscape immersion. So you play a nature soundscape recording, and then you can guide students to focus on the individual sounds, and then they have to translate the words into English. So they can learn some words. So you can combine mindfulness with vocabulary building and active listening. Mindful reading, again, you can have students read a short passage in English, and before starting, guide them to notice how they feel. They can notice their posture, and while reading, again, they can pay attention to some sensations that arise, any emotions, and then you can discuss it, use different vocabulary. And grammar breath again, before doing some grammar, you can inhale, you can do some mindfulness exercises. It will also help to let the stress about grammar go, which is important for some students. Another thing, neurobic exercises. What is it? This is the concept which allows students to engage different senses. So what can you do? There are many exercises, just some to share with you. Novelty shock. You can have students ask to do intentional to do something unusual each day, like, take a different route to school or eat with their non-dominant hand. Sometimes we go to school to work and you don't even pay attention where you are going. Yeah. So this disrupts autopilot and forces the brain to pay attention. And then you can discuss it, how it works. Sensory overload, again, you can conduct a lesson with deliberately unusual sensory input. You can either play classical music backwards, you can change the lighting, different things. Short bursts force the brain to recalibrate and strengthen attention. Yeah? And also cross-modal connections. For instance, you can read a short story aloud and then ask students to, to draw the scene with blindfolded. It's a really great exercise. And again, you can get them out of this autopilot state. Well, and I don't know if you are familiar with Stroop test. Have you ever heard about Stroop test? The Stroop test is a very known psychological experiment or a neuropsychological test. We use it very often to access cognitive functions like perception, memory, particularly a person's ability to inhibit some cognitive interference. Sometimes we use it with people who are at risk for dementia or Alzheimer. So what can you do in the class? If you don't know it, you can create a Stroop-like test using English vocabulary. So you write the word in a different color, the ink, and students must say the color of the ink and not the word. And this mismatch it's quite difficult for some people because we do it again much mechanically. So try yourself, look at the screen and read to yourself the words, but not the word, but the color the word is written in. How is it for you? Okay. Yes, you can practice something like that. It really helps with cognitive skills. Another thing, intermittent fasting for brain power. Intermittent fasting, are you familiar with? I think now we have lots of different diets and people are familiar with and trying to use to get slim. So the principle is that the brief periods of mild stress, while like short breaks from food, can increase brain derived neurotrophic factor, which supports neuron growth and synaptic plasticity. Of course, we don't do it in the classroom, but what can we do? We can do like brain brick recharge. So it doesn't mean that you have to fast and not eat, but you can implement some structured breaks where students engage in physically active and mentally stimulating activities. So they are away from screens. So the most important thing, the key is the idea of resetting the brain. So doing something different, doing something else. Yeah? So instead of sitting in front of the screen, they have to move, they have to do something else. And this fasting can really help us to, again, reset the brain. Another thing, autonomy arcade, we know that this generation looks for autonomy, so you can prepare the menu of different activities you want to do with them, and they can choose what they want to do, if they want to read, watch something, and they let them feel more responsible for their choices. Then, of course, gamification, lots of different ideas. The concentration quest, so you can frame the learning activity as a quest with a compelling storyline, and students must complete tasks to advance through the quest. There are many virtual adventures, and then they can have some clues, riddles, obstacles they have to deal with. Virtual escape rooms is quite now popular among Generation Z. They love having escape rooms, organizing some parties and things like that. So you can always create a virtual escape room where students must solve some, again, puzzles, riddles, challenges related to the English language and grammar. and they like it and they get engaged. So personalized learning, I think we have already covered it also in the first session, that definitely students look for activities which somehow allow them to develop their interests, their needs, and their strengths. And because I do deal with and cope with positive psychology, so I try to advocate for positive approach to students. So let's rely on strengths. Everybody has a strength. Everybody has different strengths, but we need to know what strengths our students have. What are your strengths? And then instead of looking at the deficiencies, you can look at strengths. And definitely you can use it when you design the lesson for students. So different personalized learning things which are connected with their interests. In the book Find Your Voice by Macmillan, you can find lots of wonderful activities enhancing engagement, and you can connect to interests of your students. You can use some real world applications. Definitely a gorgeous material and resources to be used. The same is with some project-based learning, group work, debates, discussions. All of this you can find in the book. Wonderful ideas. It's important also to remember that because the attention span is very limited, so you have to use varied activities. So mix it up, chunk, and organize some brain breaks. Yeah, so it can't be like one long thing, but it's better when you have different activities, you jungle with them, you chunk them, and in between you have some brain breaks. Goal setting and reflection, very important, because if you want to have your students engaged, they need to know why they are engaged, what they do, what their goals are, because sometimes you can be very surprised what is the goal of the student, why they want. Also trying to encourage empathy and peer support, because we are living in a very individualistic society, and I guess that our mission is also to teach students to be more empathetic, to give support to the peers. And for me, one of the most important things is emotional teaching and learning, because then that they need emotional stimulus. Students from the generation that need emotional stimulus. Look, here you have the chart showing the results of the research taken in 2009 and 2022 by State of the Heart. It's a report. And the position which looks really scary is navigate emotions. How much the skill is disappearing. So students cannot navigate emotions. And say the same is with adults, really, with us. But it's something, it's the challenge, is the task for us to help them, to support them with navigating the emotions. So emotional teaching, talking about emotions, you can use lots of different ideas. I think Alex will tell about it later, but in Find Your Voice, we have prepared for you, I have written as a little book about big emotions. So you can find there are lots of different activities for the classroom, how to manage the emotions of the teenagers. You can create an emotional storyboard, because story is a wonderful way, to connect. We connect through stories. So they can create a simple storyboard of a scene. They can tell the story. You can tell the story. We connect through stories, and really, I think it's something which makes people engaged, and it's easy when you use either digital storyboard or you really create a story in the classroom. Different elements to keep the discipline, like clear expectations. Strategic setting, is also important when you put the students, where you position them. You have to position students who have bigger problems with attention span closer to you. You can have some signal for attention, so you can use a specific signal to regain students' attention, and you can use lots of different elements to reinforce positively the attention and engagement in the classroom. So for me, even though we have to use the technology, widely and mindfully. What is really important is building relationships, because technology is important and we can use it for many good reasons. But if we don't build the relationships, I think we will have more and more mental problems with our students. So get to know your students, create a welcoming environment, identify also struggling students, and offer personalized support. So all goes around relationships and being in touch. we can't ban the phones because, you know, it won't happen. It's impossible. Yes. So we have to give students only the guidance how to use the devices, but not necessarily banning phones produces any good results. So we need real people interacting with the world. So the platform may be technology, but the engine behind reaching the generations that has to be a human. And that's what it's actually is my message to you, that the face-to-face interaction with the teacher still is the most important component in the classroom, and it's the only thing we can do. And I guess that we have a lot of power to do it and energy. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Alicia. That was very interesting, very insightful, very helpful. We unfortunately we don't have time for questions, but we actually are answering the questions as we go here live. But I'd like to thank you, a huge thank you, Alicia. That was very, very insightful. Everybody is just writing in the chat box here how helpful that was. And how interesting. I mean, so many new things about like Stroop tests and about various topics that you've shared. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
we'll
very
see
much
you
for
next time.
listening and for being with me. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Alicia. Bye. All right, everyone. We are quickly going to wrap this up. I'm going to quickly present ideas from Find Your Voice, as Alicia was mentioning, and I will share my screen and share with you these ideas. So bear with me here. As you can see, we have Find Your Voice, and Find Your Voice is our brand holding up. My screen is not, it's almost there. I think Zoom is acting up on me here. Let's try it again. Let's see if like this, and it's still not going, eh? Let me just stop sharing and trying it again. Sometimes it's quite heavy with the bandwidth. So let's see. Sharing screen. Okay. Okay, so yes, perfect. Now we're going to talk about Find Your Voice. So basically, we have she was talking about the iGeneration, right? So this book is specifically for the iGeneration, for Generation Z. And it's an inclusive program, so lots of ideas for SEN and also neurodiversity. Obviously, it deals with autonomy, and it helps students to develop their skills and also to really be more autonomous agents of the learning journey. And it also develops responsible global citizens, right? So it's a journey, all right? It's a journey of self-discovery for students. It's written for the iGeneration, and we basically asked hundreds of students in different parts of the world about problems, about tasks, and Find Your Voice will bring the familiar situations that students have to face in their current lives through videos, quizzes, and on-the-go games. And basically, that's super helpful because, as Alicia was saying, they have different types of challenges and distractions and addictions, right? And all that with the smartphones and everything. So we support students throughout their journey, educational journey, through various resources that communicate and there are designed specifically for this generation. So if you want to know more about it, scan the QR code now, download a sample unit. It's going to be phenomenal for us to share these ideas with you. Okay, so your students can find their voice. So your students can be connected to what's important to them, using the strategies and the resources that they are used to using for like social media, for their lives in general, right? We have shared a link for you to discover this book, for you to know more about, to see how autonomous your students will be. They can have like characters that will share ideas and stories, as Alicia was talking about storytelling and how important it is. So we have characters that they can use as avatars, they can have as inspiration. So we want them to become more independent learners, right? We want them to contribute more, to find their voice, basically, and to be able to use the current resources that we have, the current way that society is designed with, social media and all these aspects, right, of current society. So please just click the link, know more about it, find out more about Find Your Voice. Scan the QR code, and you're going to discover so much and so many opportunities, learning opportunities for your students in their journey. Okay, so let me get the chat out of the way there. We are wrapping up, like I said. If you want to listen to the podcast, we have the Advancing Learning podcast. It is a podcast that talks about everything ELT and education oriented with Will Rickson and Harry Waters. Okay, so please feel free to go to www.macmillanenglish.com to know more about our podcast. Okay, and again, just to talk about what you're going to get in your virtual goodie bag, we have the Little Book of Big Emotions written by Alicja Galazka. And again, it ties in with all the ideas that she was sharing with you, and also with Find Your Voice, the new book that we have for young learners, for teens, preteens, and the Generation Z. If you have questions about the sessions, in a few days, you're going to get the recordings, and it's going to go to our playlist online to the cloud in a few weeks. And the presentation, the slides, they're going to be shared as well in a few days. So stay tuned and check your email. And anything related to training content, it will also get an email with your goodie bag, tops within a week. All right. Tomorrow, just to give you a little teaser, tomorrow we're going to talk about the digital realm. Okay, so it's going to be a session with Joanna Soke, and it's going to be about AI in 2025. So what's beyond the honeymoon phase, and also with a session called A Path to Teaching Entrepreneurship with Polina Venglovskaya. So stay tuned. Tomorrow's going to be a great day to talk about AI and various digital realm, new trends, and so on and so forth. Okay, now if you can, just name one key takeaway from today in the chat box. I'm going to put the chat box here. Everybody's saying thank you. If you want to, thank you, Amelia, Vola, have a great day. Generation Z needs, that's the key takeaway, right? Stroop tests, for me, the Pomodoro technique with the tomato, phenomenal. Okay, thank you so much. Pomodoro, that's a beautiful word in Italian, eh? Pomodoro. All right, so I will see you guys in the near future. Thank you so much for sharing, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.